Hello everyone, this is Ghazala Nihal presenting English language learning and acquisition of Bengali medium students of West Bengal. My research question is in alignment with the topic. My research objectives are to observe Bengali medium teachers' teaching methodology for students' English language learning and to investigate into the problems why students of Bengali medium schools have poor English language skill development. For data collection, I had a structured class observation schedule with which I had observed classroom teaching of 20 Bengali medium English language teachers. Qualitative content analysis of the data was done and the subsequent research answers are as follows. The answers are as per the research objectives. My first was on the teachers' teaching methodology. The answer I have split into three parts: teachers' grammar teaching, teachers' prose and poem delivery, and finally what are they doing for English language skill development of students. For grammar teaching, it was observed although Bengali medium teachers claimed to follow the grammar translation method, their teaching trend only had an appearance of the method. The science behind the method required rule teaching, rule practice and rule production, but teachers included only rule teaching and negligible rule practice. This was mostly because of students' first generation learner status and predominantly Bengali speaking environment. The inadequacy of English language usage caused the rules to appear like formula. Since students did not at all understand English when spoken, teachers were seen to emphasize more on sentence forms than on the meaning. Without the form meaning mapping, rules were being rote learnt based on certain cue words or punctuation marks. They appeared more like formula, which helped students only to attend some grammar exercises, and once the exams were over, the rules were soon forgotten. B. For prose and poem teaching, the Harbatian model of teaching was being followed. Here too, although the teachers claimed to follow the model, their teaching trend only had an appearance of the model, because the science behind the model guaranteed reading and writing skill development, but Bengali medium students were seen to read English only for pronunciation and writing was mostly memory based. For language skill development, unlike English medium schools, in Bengali medium schools, English language and literature were being dealt separately. Hence, teachers were not seen to make any exclusive efforts at language skill development. So this was the teaching methodology. This brings me to my next research objective on the problems why the Bengali medium students had such poor English language skills. Now the answer here have been split as per the 4 language skills. So I have basically shown here why their English listening skill, English speaking skill, English reading skill and finally English writing skills were poor. I'm going to be starting with the English listening skill. Now for English listening skill, teachers' loud reading was all English to hear for listening skill. Class observation showed how listening skill of students were quite underdeveloped, and the teachers blamed mostly the students for being first generation learners, illiterate poor parents. At home they received no exposure to the language. As a result, they did not get to listen to English enough. And the teachers here are also to be blamed, because since they had presumed that the students will not be able to understand English, they too cared less to use English in class. They themselves were not using enough English in class. Besides, the learning environment of the school did not also cater to their English listening skill development. Next, problem with speaking skill. For that, teachers unanimously accepted that students' speaking was poor, and they had a couple of reasons for that. Reason A, class observation showed how except for a few spattering phrases like good morning, thank you, teachers rarely used English because they presumed that the students would not understand, and hence they did not use English much in class. B, English speaking included only answering questions from memory and recitations. No real-time conversation in English took place. C, there were inadequate cultural programs in English. When questioned about it, 2 reasons came forth. First, students' motivation level was very low. Students did not want to conduct programs in English, and B, because the teachers themselves were not much interested, as one of the participants shared, and I quote, because other teachers don't like it. They think Bengali is quite enough, and that is why we are lacking interest in English. See, the next point is because the reason why students had poor speaking skill is because they also have this anxiety towards the speaking, lest they be ridiculed by their classmates. Next, we have problems with the reading skill. Reading was only for pronunciation and not comprehension. The reason for that was a class observation showed how superficial grammar learning took place, which caused no linguistic schema to develop, without which reading for comprehension is not possible. B, lack of extensive reading. But as one of the teachers shared, and I quote, "The thin textbook prescribed in the syllabus is all that they read in English." They were not encouraged, or neither did they have interesting English books, storybooks, detective tales that would interest students in the library to encourage reading. C, teachers observed how class 5 students don't know the alphabets properly, implying primary schools are non-functioning. The primary schools were not doing their jobs, because when the students were coming to upper primary, they hardly had any understanding of English words and how words gather to form sentences. Hence, extensive reading was not possible. And lastly, reading skill development was poor because the syllabus, teachers blamed the syllabus, and I quote, "Syllabus does not allow us to have all these skill development." I mean, she said, during our times we had dictation classes, we had reading classes, but nowadays we don't have those. This brings me to my next skill, writing skill. Writing skill was poor because students were capable only to write from memorize sentences. The first reason for that was teachers blamed the board exam pattern, which was mostly MCQs and memory based. And I quote one of the teachers, "The very question patterns in classes 9 and 10 are flawed. 30 to 40% of the question is MCQ, enough to get the qualifying marks. As a result, students hardly attempt the writing part." Next point, most of the teachers blamed the no detention policy of the state. With no reason to fail, students hardly practiced writing at home. And finally, but the writing skill is poor of the students because students have this general fear and disregard for English. As one of the teachers shared, English to them was just a subject to pass, nothing to learn from. Finally, another reason for the poor language skill acquisition is no language laboratory. None of the observed school had a language lab, nor did the teachers claim to have one. Only one school showed to have a language lab, but when questioned about it, when the teacher was asked how did she manage to have that language lab, she said that she did it, but it was much against the wishes of her colleagues. So in a nutshell, it's seen that although they were following methods like grammar translation method, Herbartian model of teaching, but it was only in appearance. They were not in line with these methods. The science behind this methodology was not being implemented, as a result of which an all-round language skill development was not taking place. All that happened was completion of the syllabus was taking place. Syllabus was being completed, but as such, students were completely incapable of speaking in English or understanding when English was being comprehended, or reading English, or even writing English. So a language development outside classes was not taking place, but because language usage outside or even within class was not taking place. That's it. Thank you, all of you.